All right, folks. Welcome to Dealcasters Live. We have an extra special show. One of our most favorite people on the planet, Tanya Smith, is going to join us. We're waiting to go live here on Amazon. Stick around, because this is a show you don't want to miss. Welcome to Dealcasters. Dealcasters Live. My name is Chris Stone. I'm at castahead.net. And the gorgeous gentleman on the right side of your screen, doing marketing the Marine Corps way, Lieutenant Colonel Jim Fuse of Fusion Marketing. How are we doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing great. It's an exciting day today because not only do we have an amazing guest, but Luca Oppenheimer, who is going to be a much more beautiful person than me, my grandson, is 9 months old today. So
9 months. Are we celebrating birthdays of 9 months now? Are we just
you celebrate every month the first year, Chris?
Can we go weeks?
You'll learn. You could.
Lucas, 37 weeks, 36 weeks. How many? What are we doing?
I think that's about right.
No. Happy 9th month birthday, Luca. That's awesome. Proud grandfather. That's amazing. And proud Washington Commanders football fan.
Yes.
They're playing Saturday night against my Detroit Lions. We're not going to make this a football show because people are jumping in, and we have Stacy Moore here. Stacy, thank you for joining it. I don't think Stacy's referring to you or me at this point, Jim, because she's all that in a bag of chips as I resize my thing here so we can get everybody. You know what? As expected, Tanya Smith has brought her fan club.
Yes.
With her, and I'm a member of her fan club, so I know what this is about, Stacy. I know she's all that in a bag of chips. That's why we're lucky to have her on the show today. So thank you for joining us. And whatever these hashtags are, OG. I know what OG is. I know what OG's SBA. I think we're gonna have to have Tanya tell us what that's all about. Stream Boss Academy. That's my guess. That's my guess.
That's a good guess. That's a good guess.
And so, Stacy, thank you for joining us. We're breaking it down in layman's terms. Doug Layman, what it do in layman's terms? Douglas, Happy New Year, my friend. I hope you are breaking 2025 down in layman's terms. I knew Doug would be here. Doug knows all about video and knows how to follow the creative influencers in this space, and our guest is definitely one of those. Now, I cannot pronounce the first part. I know quilts, but, maybe it's chocolate, but we're crossing out the C.
Zocolate?
Yes.
Zocolate?
Good evening to you, chocolate quilts. I'm hoping that's what that's supposed to be, but hey, that's awesome. Doug Layman, we're on all of the tubes. Not only, and this is anyone here that loves live streaming, like both of us do, and our guest Tanya Smith does. The beautiful part about live streaming is you can just pair up all of the streams, and then you send it over to your guest. And if your guest is the best guest ever, like our guest is Tanya Smith, she pairs it with her platforms as well. So we're live on all the Dealcasters tubes, but we're live on a bunch of Tanya's tubes too. So we're rocking on all the place. Oh, here we go. Equip Institute in the house. The fan club is already here, Jim. And so I don't know. Oh, okay. Pure chocolate quilts. Thank you for clarification on this. I was feeling a little uneasy. I like to be able to make sure I'm not offending, right? You want to be able to pronounce, things the right way. Pure chocolate quilts. What is pure? Okay. Again, what's the X for? Is that in pure? Okay. I have questions. I'm sorry, I have questions. But the good thing, Jim, is that our guest has answers. So we're going to get right to it because the folks are chomping at the bit for our guest. So ladies and gentlemen, you will have to get ready to boss up your video game because Tanya Smith is the ultimate video coach for all you service-based entrepreneurs and content creators, teaching you how to stand out, serve more, and sell more using her powerful live streaming strategies on all of the tubes. Let's welcome to the Dealcasters stage one of our favorite people on the planet, the amazing Tanya Smith. Thank you for joining us.
You guys,
No fun
Kevin
at
had
all.
me cracking up. And just in the first few seconds. So this is going to be fun.
Listen,
Yes.
if you're a live streamer and you're doing this thing like you're doing, if you're not having fun, what are we doing? Right?
Right.
Yep. It's true.
You know, Tanya,
It's true.
and I've told you this. This isn't some surprise. You're one of the shows that when I first hit the show and I started watching it, what hit me immediately was your excellence, your spirit of excellence. I can tell that you're not winging this, right? This is someone that knew what they were doing, but didn't show like they were just like a super expert, because it was like, I decided I would chime in and maybe ask a question. You know, I decided I would maybe chime in and make a comment about how cool the purple microphone was, or, you know, it maybe just a response to something that was happening that I was actually learning. And then all of a sudden, I'm being like identified in this community of people alongside of these other people like Talk Virtual, who's here, and Nina and all these people. And I felt like I was immediately welcomed into this community. And I just got to say, like, it is those kinds of things are not easy to do. And when you have so many things going on like we do right now, to pull in communities and to be able to do things like teach and coach and do these things like you do is so difficult. When did you first identify like, hey, I'm actually starting, like, what was the moment that you had that you say, hey, I'm starting to feel like I have people around me, like a community, like these are my people?
Oh, goodness. I don't know that there was a single moment, but I know that there were moments where I thought, I'm not sure if this is right for me. And then at some point, after going live to a dead audience, to crickets, I started realizing that if I didn't show up when I said I was going to show up, there were people reaching out and asking why.
Yeah.
And so then I made the mental shift that, okay, hold on. I'm doing this not so much because I want people to be in the audience and I want 10,000 followers and I want to go viral. I'm doing this because if I can reach that one person, if one person hears me and says, hey, that was helpful, that was going to be the win for me. And so I started just being more consistent and showing up when I promised I would. And then I saw that there was a recurring audience, like repetitive audience members, people that were coming back. And I thought, this is family. Like, this is community right here.
Right.
Wow. You know, it's a mindset that I still can't have. Like right now, there's people chiming in the chat, and I can't go quick enough to them, and we'll get to you. And if you've got any questions for Tanya Smith, please put them in the chat with a Q in front of it. And that way we can identify those and pull those up, because it's not every day you get to have an accomplished live video coach who's about to take the stage at PodFest, which I want to talk about. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. Identifying that one person, like how. It's so hard for me to do. Like, do you print out a picture of your avatar, of the avatar that you're speaking to? Is that, I mean, what kind of process, somebody that's starting out that really doesn't feel like they have someone yet, they know they want to speak to a person, like, but how do they go through that mindset so they can start addressing that and be consistent like you're talking about?
You know, a big part of it is that you have to experiment. So it's not like I magically knew exactly who I wanted to talk to initially, right? I just knew that I had a message to share. And what I like to talk about with people who are in this space of trying to understand and learn their brand is that there's really 3, maybe even 4 M's when it comes to your branding. And you're figuring these things out. So you're figuring out, what's my mastery? And that's one of the toughest parts, because a lot of us are so multi-talented and there's so many things we have our hands in and we love all the things. But there's something that you really want to be known for. There's some type of specialty or expertise. So the mastery, You're figuring that out. You're figuring out who is the market. So who am I talking to? When I share this mastery of mine, who is it that it can impact? And then you're thinking about your method, the method in which you're trying to actually communicate, and what's the message? Like, what's the main point that if I could just get this point across to that market, to that target audience, to that ideal person, to that one single person that I can make an impact on, what would that message be? What's the key theme? And as you continuing to really just put yourself on camera and talk, I think it comes over time. I think you start to figure out the things that you love and the things that you don't love talking about, right? And eventually at some point it will come to you. I don't think it's a magical formula. I don't think some people will know, but I honestly had to figure that out. It took me a minute. And then I started seeing a theme of certain types of people and trends that were running in the line of the folks that were showing up. And I realized, okay, for me, it's typically going to be coaches and other service providers. For me, it's going to be typically people who are over 40, over 45. There was a certain group of people that I was drawing attention to. I think it requires that you stand up and show up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of people talk about this showing up, and they throw out consistency, and they talk about how consistency is key. Okay. But it's not just about doing that particular rep. It's about improving a little bit every time you do it and learning from that every time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
it really is.
So the community you've built, I'm assuming it's like, and I'm reading all the stuff, and it's like, I'm not, for whatever reason, I'm not the demo, 50-year-old middle-aged dude or whatever. Jim, sorry, we're not the demo, but it's mostly women age 35, 65, right? Small business, service-based businesses. I like to learn from anyone. Like I can learn from, sanitation engineers. I can learn from, pest controllers. I actually started doing a pest control podcast, not myself, but producing one. And you wouldn't believe the stuff that you can learn in terms of sales and marketing from these people. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But like, what I'm curious about is, did you identify problems from that group and then provide those solutions? And maybe what are some of the most often, the problems that you most often see from that demo?
So first of all, I am my client.
Okay.
I know it doesn't always work out that way, but for me, that's the way that it worked out. I had some of the same challenges. I had some of the same problems that a lot of other service providers were facing. And so for me, for instance, juggling a corporate role that I've been in now for 33 years, plus doing coaching for 20 of those 33 years, that's kind of a unique situation to be in. But not only is it unique, it's also, when I say unique, I mean juggling them effectively is unique because it's hard to do. But the thing that was a running trend for many of the people who were coming into my space is that they too were struggling with time management. They were trying to figure out systems. They wanted to be more efficient. They wanted to be more productive. They wanted time to spend with their families. When I think about my personal values, freedom of expression is one, and time freedom is another one. A lot of the people who were coming into my space saw that I had solutions to those two problems. And they recognized, hey, I don't want to live for my business. I want my business to be a part of my life. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to have to constantly be in it all the time. And because of that, because I'm very, very specific about my values, I'm very centered, I know what is important to me, I think that starts to come out in what you talk about. I think that starts to come out in your content and the way that you move. And the people who really need to move or want to move that way were attracted to what I was talking about. So yeah, there are definite challenges that the folks that are in that demographic face. But to your point earlier, it's not about being exclusive. So I'm not saying Jim and Chris can't hang out. I'm saying,
oh, we can hang out.
You
cool.
You can hang all the time with me.
Awesome.
But what I'm saying is, there is a limitation. There is a limited budget. Like, I am not Southwest Airlines. Therefore, I do not have an unlimited marketing budget. They probably don't either. And so when I'm positioning myself, there's two things I'm thinking about from a business standpoint is where do I put my marketing dollars so I can be in front of people and plant a flag somewhere and they can find me versus me constantly chasing and throwing money at a problem. And then the second thing is, what is my actual happy place? Like, what makes me happy? Who makes me happy when I'm around them, when I work with them? And so I was able to really kind of hone in on that simply because I put myself out there. When I first started, honestly, Chris and Jim, I was going off of the old the old saying that I learned from being a salesperson in a very well-known cosmetic company, that everyone with skin is your customer.
Yeah.
And that's a lie.
Yeah.
Like, everyone with skin I don't have an unlimited budget to go and market to everyone with skin.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started shrinking that down and saying, okay, well, let me get really clear, let me target exactly who it is that I absolutely love working with, who I know I can help because of my personal set of filters and experiences and stories and knowledge that I choose to, build on. If I can help that particular group, I'm going to position in front of them, and anybody else who loves that topic too and can benefit from it, they're welcome. But I'm not targeting everybody with skin. Does that make sense?
It does. And
Okay.
Tanya, I would say too that I think what you've done and what I think is so important is you've decided, if I focus on building a community of people that I know, like, and trust, we're going to bond. And so it's
Yeah.
you don't need 1 million followers. If you've got, even a couple of hundred that bond with you, you're all going to, rise up and be better at what
Yes.
you're providing to them. And I think that's where too many of us get caught up in this, like, oh, you got to, run Facebook ads, you got to get, thousands of subscribers and all this other stuff. And it kind of goes back to what Pat Flynn talks about. No, you need those super fans, and they're going to say, hey, do you know Tanya Smith? And, I'm so glad and honored that we've become friends because you are amazing. It's kind of like, I'm going to do a little, what is it, Stuart Scott, right? You're as smooth as the other side of
Oh, jeez. Wow. Jim, I'm
Just
blushing.
made my whole night.
Yeah, look at that. No, but it's
Can I
true.
come on your show every night?
Exactly. You want to feel good? Come on, Dealcasters.
Right.
It's, as entrepreneurs, though, the difficult part of what you're talking about is when you're too thirsty, right? When you lose some clients and you need the money, right? And so you start to take on people aren't necessarily your best client, or you're not super passionate about working with them, but you need the check, right? You need to put food on the table, and all of those things. Like, how, like, that is such a difficult balance, but it's so important to just sometimes say no to someone, or at least to try to help them and move them to someone else that you think would be more passionate about it than you are. Did you ever have any situations like that?
So this whole law of the vacuum, right? If you allow space for the things that you want, the people that you want in your life, you're more likely to get just that. When you start filling up that vacuum and that hole with things that don't belong, people that don't belong, things that are totally misaligned with your values, with who you are, with how joyful you want to be in your business, that creates a problem because you're not making space for the people who are really meant to be there, who should be in there. So I totally hear what you're saying. And the thing is I was that person too. I was desperate. I think we've all at some point been in that scarcity mindset where we thought, okay, well, I really need to make these sales, so I just need to go ahead and say yes to this thing, right? We were talking about before that I used to design websites.
Yep.
And I hated it. I also was a career coach when I first started out coaching, and I hated it because people were like, oh, I need you to write this resume. I don't want to write resumes. I hate writing resumes. Just because I have an HR background doesn't mean I love to do that. And I found that it was draining. And as a matter of fact, not only was it draining, but I wasn't making the income that I thought I should be making and that I would be more likely to make had I made the room for the right clients and the right expertise. That thing that I could just fall in love with, and I can wake up in the morning and say, I can't wait to do this. When you
Yes.
feel that way, you're going to make the money, but you've got to stop filling up that space with things that don't belong.
Yeah.
Yeah, this reminds me too of, this is the point in the time where we do a bit of a transition, because I wanted to get to your speaking, but it totally plays into this, because you've spoken on many different stages. Podfest is coming up this week. You're going to be speaking on Saturday. Very excited to just have you give the speech right here. So the keynote live. I told you there wouldn't be a surprise, but surprise, you're doing that now. But I mean, you've talked Rock's Digital Conference, Black Speakers Network, Podfest, multiple stages, right? So this is a different thing, right? Or maybe it's the same because you go live all the time and you're speaking on the virtual stage. How do you cater what you're talking about to these different audiences while still maintaining that one person that you're talking to?
Yeah. Here's the thing. I think that the topics that I get to talk about, because I do enjoy them, because I love talking about video and I love talking about how to really create a content strategy that's going to fit your reality and who you are, your personality. I feel like that topic is perfect for something like Podfest because of the people who are going to be there. They are creatives. They are people who really enjoy that type of content. So I'm not so worried about making the connection. Where I do have challenge or problem is, again, that whole law of the vacuum. I don't take on every speaking opportunity. So if somebody says, hey, I really want you to speak at this event, or I want you to do this, I have to sit within myself for a little bit and say, okay, let me take a look at this. And does this feel right? Does this align with what I talk about? Is this something that I feel like I could be passionate about in a way that I'm going to truly make a difference? Because if not, then I have to say no.
Yeah.
So I think the whole one person thing, yes, it absolutely translates very well, especially for someone like me who is an introvert. I'm a big old introvert.
Really?
And so for huge, oh my God, I'm a cave dwelling introvert, which is why I love virtual. I could be at home all the time. But, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and I think too, what you bring up is so important. And I think, Chris, you and I have talked about this, that, that whole thing of at one point, you're like, oh, I got to go speak at all these events. But then when you really start to take a look at these things, you're like, how does this help me? And how is this going to grow things? Like, I used to go to networking events all the time before, the pandemic. And now it's like, I stopped going, but my business is still growing. So I think there's still a bunch of these people, to your point. It's like, well, I got to go to this event because I think I'm going to find those people that are going to help me. And the reality is you're spending a lot of time on activity as opposed to productivity.
That's absolutely right. And Stacy's not wrong. If you saw Dr. Stacy Moore in there, she's not wrong. I do vet everything because I'm big on boundaries. I'm big on, and the reason for that is because I realize that it is a huge responsibility to position myself as a role model, first of all, for two African-American daughters growing up in this country, first of all. Yeah. So it is a huge responsibility for me to stand up and to show myself to be the woman that I believe that they can be. Yeah. So for me, protection of mental, physical, all of the different boundaries is super important. And I show them through my actions how to continue to be strong and resilient by protecting those things. So when I am making decisions about just about anything, I'm weighing it against, what do I enjoy? How can I be helpful and useful? Is this right for me? And if it's not right for me and not for the person on the other side, I don't have a problem saying no. And because of that, more of the things that I really want are coming my way. And I just feel like we sometimes are in this society right now, in this culture, in this moment, people want to be famous so bad
Yeah.
that they'll do just about anything, and they'll say yes to just about anything. And we have to figure out what makes sense for us and protect ourselves with that. I call it my pink bubble, because Ellen Britt taught me that when I used to be in her group. It's my pink bubble. Like, what is the bubble for you? Because if you don't have anything to protect that, you can easily go down a path that will deteriorate your health, your wellness. So I'm really protective of all of those things.
I love that. I love the vulnerability that you're showing and talking about that. But I also feel like, I think someone casually hears that and they think, well, she's just, she's doing this, for herself. But you talked about your family. You talk about, when you make these choices to exclude yourself from things will, it's not just about not helping yourself. You can't serve the person and the people that you're supposed to serve. And having your priorities straight, like you do, and serving your family and doing that, and the protection aspect is so huge. And I just, the story you had shared on social about, the trolls, right, that come in and they're gonna come in and they're gonna throw mud and it's easy for us to say, just ignore them, right? And just do that. And yeah, that's probably the right advice, right? But it's easier said. And I think the way you handled the situation, I thought was fantastic. And I got to be honest, I don't think I would have handled, because immediately when I saw that, I got this rage up inside of me when you shared the comment that somebody made, but your response was not at all what I was thinking. How many comments came in before you got to that comment, or how many comments did you erase yourself before you actually typed in the comments that you made?
Right. Look, I'm probably a lot more mature than I look.
Okay.
So 20 years ago, I probably would have been a different person.
Yeah.
In this moment in time, again, to me, it is so important, especially for our next generation, for some of us who have been around the block for a minute, to stand up and show what it means to have class, to give grace, but also to be firm. And so it didn't take me long in this recent instance, because I've been through many worse comments, many worse situations than this dude who decided he just wanted to blow up my feed. But I will say that it hurts that I know there are some who haven't ever faced that before. I will tell you, my daughter, my eldest daughter, she's 23. She just got out on her own. She just finished her master's degree and now she's working. She said something to me late last year that really bothered me. She said, "Mom, you've always taught us to not allow anything to hold us back, not allow anybody else's perceptions or their perspectives about who we are to keep us from doing what we're meant to do." And I just nodded like, yeah, I mean, that's what I say. She said, but now in this moment, I worry about what other people think and how they behave and respond to their thoughts is going to affect me, not only mentally, emotionally, in all of those ways, but physically. Will people bring me harm? And that bothered me greatly. So I think now is a time for those of us who do have the maturity to stand up and to do something a little bit different than what everybody on social media is doing on the bandwagon. I think it's important for us to show that maturity, to show what it means to be strong and to be firm, but also to be at peace. So I don't allow much to mess with my peace. It's just not happening. But this took time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you and learnings and boy, you're stronger than I am. I mean, I think that just is that kind of story. Just it stirs in me because I'm a father, and I have two sons, and just the thought of any kind of harm, physical, mental, or any of that kind of stuff, just that stirs a different side. It really does. But to be able to be resilient and I don't want to use the word professional, but but it is professional. But you know what I'm saying? Like you because to your point, you're modeling for your daughters, right? You like they want to be like, you want to be able to respond in such a way so that when we're off of this earth, that modeled behavior goes on. How did we get here from speaking at Podfest?
I don't know. I was just sitting here thinking, I wonder if that's what they intended. Like is this what they wanted me to talk about?
Our intentions right now is to talk to these folks who are in here. Talk Virtual. Do you know Talk Virtual's real name?
Yes. Erica.
Erica, thank you for joining.
What's up,
Stronger Than I Am also. Yeah, she's amazing. You have a huge fan here, Nina, over on Amazon. Sad, so true. Amen to that. What good is success if you don't have the peace to delight in it?
Yes, absolutely.
I love that. That's where my expertise comes in, says Nina. Many people have no sense of online tact or PR skill. I mean, it's tough. And then Doug says he misses the lava lamp. Where's the lava lamp, Tanya?
The lava lamp is right over here, Doug. You just can't.
Oh, that could be my fault, Doug, because I zoomed her in. We get more clicks clearly when Tanya is zoomed in as opposed to these two knuckleheads on either side. But Doug, you got your answer. And Bullet for Bucks wants to be on the show. So look up Bullet for Bucks, and maybe we can talk about hunting or whatever. So Bullet for Bucks, thank you for joining us. But so we talked about you have this huge amount of experience, like 20 plus years, right, in digital marketing. Can you why have you focused so much on live streaming? Why is it seemed, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it just seems like that is maybe the tip of the spear for you when you're working with any. But you've done all kinds of digital marketing and advertising and graphics and all kinds of building websites like we talked about. Why'd you choose live streaming?
Because remember I mentioned the word desperate? There was a point where I was starting to lose all sense of organic reach. And so my pages weren't getting the attention. And it was actually right at the end, towards the end of my husband going through chemo for a year because he had colon cancer and all kinds of stuff was happening. So I was in a spirit of thinking through whether or not I wanted to continue to do this or just be normal and have one job. Right? I just want one career. I just want to be normal and average. And I had to make a decision. And so part of the reason why I made the choice to add live streaming to my kit at the time was, I know this, when you do the things that others don't, you get the opportunities that others won't. And I knew that a lot of people were saying they wouldn't live stream. They didn't want to get on camera.
Right.
So I thought, okay, let me do the opposite. I'm big on watching what are the hordes doing? Like where's the herd going? Right. So I can decide if I want to go that way or if I want to slightly take a little bit of a left or right. And so I made a decision to try it for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted to do video because I knew that was a thing that people weren't doing. But two, I didn't want to have to do video production. You guys are editors and you do production and you're great at that. I sucked at it and didn't have the time to spend.
I know a guy, Tanya.
I'm going to have to call a guy because that's not my happy place. But live streaming allowed me to just get on camera, be myself, get off and be done. And so I figured out over a year after I made a promise to myself that I'm going to commit to doing a year of lives every week and see what happens. And what happened was it just totally changed the trajectory of my business, my life. The way that I was showing up was different. All of those things changed because I put myself out there, and I am vulnerable on camera, and I started to build community, and I started to learn that a lot of the things I knew about content I could share in that format, and live streaming just became a happy place for me.
Okay, so challenges. Like, I've never done one, and I don't know why. I'm just not, it doesn't seem so like, this is when I hear someone like yourself who I look at what you're doing and I'm like, okay, how does she do this? How does she do this? Every time I'm on your show, I'm like, and you always say, hey, bring a pen and a pad. It's true, because it never fails. Every time I join your show, it's not just about the community. It's not just about the chatting, but I learn something every single time I join the show. And I mean that. And it's when I hear you say this challenge thing changed the trajectory of your business, that means something. I know Jim has a story about how he did a challenge. I think it was it Kelly Noble Mirabella's challenge, Jim?
Yep.
And so now, Tanya, you have launched a new challenge. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I have been thinking about this. I've been pondering it actually for almost the last year. And I was trying to figure out the best way to get this out. And initially for probably 3 or 4 months, honestly, Chris, I was pondering whether or not it would be an on-demand course, right? Because I keep having people asking me about, okay, so Tanya, you say we need to do these things. You say we need to have a strategy. You say we need structure. You say we need to be consistent. You say, so all these things, but teach us how. And I just could not, for some reason, I had this mental block of making myself do an on-demand course. I don't know why. I get energized when people are there, maybe because of the live streaming thing, right? So I decided, okay, well, I'm seeing some other people who are successfully doing these challenges, which really it's just another word for we're putting a structure out there, teaching people how to apply it, and giving them a limited time frame in which they need to take action. Because that creates momentum. And like my new friend, Jonathan Mast, who's an AI guru, says, success loves speed. I know I've heard that term before, but recently he said that. And that just was like light bulb moment. Oh, instead of me sitting here trying to ponder how I'm going to do this course, why don't I create a challenge where I can meet people where they are in an intimate community and teach them over a 3-day period on a Zoom call, and provide them with templates and things like I do inside of Stream Bosses Academy. And then once they're done learning that piece, if they want to move on to the next piece, they move on to the next piece. So it's a 4-part challenge for me. And I call it, goodness, what do I call it? You stumped me. I forget what I call it.
I'm the one asking questions, Tanya. I don't know.
Right? What the heck did she call it? I'm challenged right now. Livestream Launchpad is the first of the 4 challenges, but I have created a series of 4 challenges to help people to be smarter with streaming, like to actually not just get on camera for sake of getting on camera, but doing it with a purpose. So I'm getting kind of excited about it, but the Livestream Launchpad starts with, here's how you get started. And then we go into another challenge the next month called Stream Steady, which helps people with consistency because I'm big on templates, workflows, and all that stuff. Then we're doing the multiplier method, which is what I'm talking at PodFest about. The multiplier method is my method for taking a single live stream and converting it into multiple forms of content. And then we're going to talk about crickets to clicks and how you actually create lead generation, a lead generation machine through your live streaming if you're doing it consistently and you're doing all the things from the previous 3. So yeah, I'm really excited that I get to do this with people versus just talking at them.
I want to talk about the crickets to clicks, but before we go there, I think the challenge thing and what you're talking about, I had a boss previously when I worked at Sony, and it drove me nuts that she would, when she assigned something to the team, it had like a 3 or 4 day window for us to get it done. And we would scramble and get it done and have this project, and late nights or whatever. And then she would sit on it for like a week or two, and we wouldn't get any feedback on it. And I finally just addressed it with her. I was like, listen, we've just about killed ourselves doing this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, you want to know why I do this? Because you're never more productive when you have that shorter window of time in order for you to get it done. And this is where I get the best work out of this team, is doing that. And she said, but don't tell the rest of the team I told you that, because I still need to do that stuff. But it's true. If you think about it, if you're on a deadline, you will never work as hard at that last 15 minutes of that deadline to get it over across the fence. I don't know. And sometimes those challenges will do it. Jim, what was your challenge? Was it to do live video with
it was the whole idea of getting started with Facebook Live. And part of doing that too is, one, getting over that fear of being on video.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing too is, kind of going back to talking about things we didn't like, is like, I was helping people with social media management and wanted them to go live. Well, how can I have them go live if I'm not willing, as my friend Peter from Relatable likes to say, eat my own dog food, right?
Yeah.
You've got to be, and it's no different than like in a lot of leadership things. If you as a leader aren't willing to do what you want your people to do, you're really not being a good leader. And so I think that, to me, the great thing about the challenge was I got over that fear, right? It led to me really probably within 4 months of that challenge, Tim Sohn and I started the Tim and Jim show, which is, led to you and I having this show. But if I hadn't have taken that challenge, I don't know, maybe I would have started by now. But I'm not, and I don't know, maybe you guys did, but I didn't grow up as a video person. I didn't grow up using cameras all the time.
Not you, Jim. I thought you were doing, as long as when the webcam was invented, Jim was doing a live show, I thought.
I wasn't on Blab. I saw it, but I never jumped on because, oh my gosh, I'm going to get on a video and talk to people.
Right.
Venice Johnson, this is what makes Tanya Smith so relatable, her ability to humanize work. We love her for being our role model. Thank you, Venice, for joining us. And Arthur Keith, or Artichoke, I am the hustle. Is he reading your shirt, Tanya? Is that what your shirt?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. All right. All right, Arthur, we see you. Keep your eyes up here. Keep your eyes up here. Come on. All right.
He's actually family, so he's definitely not. He's not going there.
Okay, good. Good. Nina loves it. Always a fun time with Chris and Jim. They bring valuable. Thank you, Nina, for joining. She's here. Oh, and we've got Tech Troublemaker making trouble in the house. Live streaming is his happy place. Yes, we see him all over the interwebs. And Nina says, that was a conviction. Check for my spirit, Jim. Thank you, guys. All right. We're here to convict everyone, apparently. So thank you for that, Nina. So crickets to clicks is what and what's the other? Lurkers to leads. That's the other one that you like to talk about. And this is the thing, right? It's like a lot of people think, we're doing this thing and we're just hanging out, right? And we just we just kind of plop stuff on here and we're just kind of winging it. And then some of the stuff we kind of are winging because we're having fun and, Tanya's a friend and all of that. But we don't just do this just for our health. I mean, it is fun, absolutely. And it's very healthy, I guess, mentally healthy to do this kind of stuff. But I think that's the real challenge in all of this is how you turn. How does someone, when they watch your shows, and the YouTube channel for those of you who are watching is at Tanya Smith, and it's Tanya Smith Presents Stream Like a Boss TV. When they are watching these live streams, how do you turn the lurkers into leads? How do you turn the crickets into actually prospects?
So. This could be a whole master class, but I'm going to keep it real brief.
We only have 3 hours, so...
Okay.
Yeah, try to make it brief.
Well, I'm going to keep it real brief. So I use something called the BOSS framework. I'm big on acronyms in case you haven't figured that out. and things
Mm-hmm.
that help me to remember things because, over 50. Hey. Um, the boss formula. So what that's about is this, and this is going to tie into your question greatly. I don't believe in creating content just for sake of creating content. For me, that doesn't work. For others, it does, and that's okay. And it depends on what your objective is. So if you simply just want to be viral, you want to be famous and all of that, that's a whole different scope. You can just ignore everything I'm about to say. But if you have a business and if you are trying to generate income so that you can sustain a certain lifestyle for your family, improve the life of the people that are around you, if you want to do all those things with your content, the boss formula is this. It's about focusing on your branding strategy and understanding how your video brand makes a difference and makes an impact. Okay. We talked a little bit about those M's earlier. So that's the brand. The O, and this is specifically the thing that I want to focus in on. The O is for offer-based content.
Okay.
Offer-based content. So when I'm creating content, I'm working backwards from an offer. There's a thing that I have on the other side of this content that is going to be helpful for you. And if you decide that you want to have more of an extended experience with me and to go deeper on that specific topic, you can do so by following this path and paying this investment. Okay. So every piece of content, when I create my live stream topics for the quarter, for the year, or whatever the stretch might be for you, I'm thinking first, what is it that's the offer and how am I working my content into that so that I have calls to action? The other two S's, not so necessary right now, but I'll say that S is for systems and workflows so that you can be efficient and productive, because that's my real happy place and my joy. And then the other S is for social engagement. So how are you engaging with people and following up with them and making sure that they know who you are, that they know you care about them because you're
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging their comments and you're responding to them even after the show is done. But when you do those things, that is what helps you to get from crickets to clicks, because you've already thought the process through. You've already worked backwards and said, I have this thing for people to enjoy and appreciate for a fee or in exchange for their email, right? I've got this thing. And so your content is intentional, it's focused, it's on purpose. It's not just, hey guys, I wanted to get on camera and talk to you today. It's, I want to share this thing with you because I have this over here that can really help you and make a big transformation for you. But even if you don't partake in that thing that costs money, you still got something of value from my free talk, right? For
Yeah.
me, that's the path. So I'm thinking strategically. I'm not just thinking about, let me throw some content out there and see what sticks.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's so hard, I think, for people to create something that other people can pay for, especially like, entrepreneurs, and like, how can I create something that is that the O of this and the offer, and have like, nobody's going to want to pay for my digital PDF of my whatever, thing,
Or will they? Let's
exactly. So
reframe.
yeah, why what is the how do people get past the struggle? So many people will just constantly do, but there's nowhere for someone to land on, whether it's just an affordable $10 item or some sort of Patreon or buy me a coffee, or it doesn't have to be some Ustream or whatever course academy necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people are just, at least the people that I talk to, and they don't have these offers. They're just afraid are they afraid no one's going to care, or that nobody's going to actually pay them money? How do you work with people to get past that kind of thinking?
I think that's a huge mind. So I'm going to start with going back to what you said. Nobody's going to pay me for X, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when you reframe that and you think about what is it that I know that someone else who doesn't know this thing will be willing to invest in to learn about it? And who is the group of people that are more likely to invest in that thing? So one of the classes I used to teach quite often was called MV3, your most valuable video viewer. Who is it that's going to be watching that really could use this thing and they see value in it to the point to where I can assign a monetary or a dollar amount to that value? There's something everyone has or knows. It's just we get so tied up in what we know and we think that everybody else is aware of that thing. And so we don't see value in it because we're like, well, everybody knows that. And what you'll find if you start talking to people more is that, no, they actually didn't.
Right.
Like that was unique to you.
It's the curse of knowledge, right? It's you have 20 plus years, 30 plus years of doing all this, and we think everybody knows what we know, and it's just not true. Or they might not even care, but that is absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up because the curse of knowledge is a huge thing. It's why people that have an immense amount of knowledge can't do simple videos. They can't we'll get a new microphone in and I have to talk about how mic technique works and how things like that. But I'm thinking to myself, I can't believe I'm talking about mic technique again for the millionth time. But guess what? That helps people. So you have to get past that, and it might help that person start a podcast and go, hey, I got this a few weeks ago. I had a person contact me, said, "You're the reason why I started a podcast," and I got a lump in my throat, and I was like, "Really?" And like, "Yeah, you helped me start a podcast. We met at this conference, and you told me this, that, and the other, and I started a podcast, and now I'm 50 something episodes in." And so,
and Chris, it kind of goes to when you think about it, like we tend to be surrounded, like even some of the folks in the audience here, we're all people that do video. We're all comfortable with video. But when you start looking at the numbers, the statistics, we're a very, very small percentage of not only the population, but of businesses that are using video as much as people say, oh, everybody wants to consume video. So then you say, well, why isn't this business or this person talking about their business on video? Because they don't even know where to start.
That's right.
And it's crazy when you think about it because they're like, oh, well, who would listen to me? Why would they want to learn about video from me? There's so many other people out there that are better than me. So a little bit of, I think too, is the imposter syndrome challenge.
Yeah. I think every day for the last couple weeks, I've gotten comments in my YouTube channel that are saying, and it's on old videos, recent videos, you name it. They're saying, hey, thank you so much for sharing that one single point. That just really hit me the right way.
Yeah.
So you never know who is listening on the other side that could be impacted. And you need to just go all in on that thing that is your expertise that you love and keep learning about it. Because right now, the pace of change is ridiculous. So even if you thought you knew certain things 5 years ago, take a look at what has been added to that thing. Like AI it's influencing everything that we do now. So how do you continue to learn so that you can pass that on to someone who may not know? Don't assume that everybody knows what you know.
Yeah.
And recognize the value. I always hear from my good friend, Wendy Y. Bailey, she talks about knowing your worth. You have to know that what you have to offer to the world is of value. If you don't know that, if you don't recognize that in what you say and what you do and who you be, I know it's who you are. I know. For those who are trying to correct me right now silently, I think that it's important for you to recognize that there is a group of people willing to pay and to invest in learning more about that thing. And if you recognize that and you start studying and researching, because you do need to back it up with research, right?
Yeah.
Then you can make decisions. You can make informed decisions about what product or programs or services you need to create around that topic. If you don't do those things, you're going to sit around thinking, I don't have anything to offer that anybody's going to buy because you haven't done the homework. You haven't researched. You haven't asked questions. So you need to do those things, and it does take time. It's not like, well, I guess for some people it is tomorrow I'm wealthy and famous, but most people, that's not the case.
No.
Most people, it's going to take some experimenting and some work.
See, I knew there was a reason why we brought you on this show. Every time I watch your show, it's and I don't mean this the wrong way, but it's like when you go to church and the pastor or whomever kind of gets under your skin a little bit, and you're like, okay, yeah, I need to be doing that, or whatever. Whenever I tune in to a Tanya Smith show where you're a guest or on your show, there's always something I'm like, yep, Chris, you need to be doing this. You need to be doing this. It's usually the organizational part. That's not my happy place. And my CPA reminds me of that every year. Is the organizational aspects of what I do. But you touched on this, Tanya, and I want to leave. The folks, we're not going to go 3 hours, unfortunately. Even though Tanya wants to go 4, I want to kind of put a bow on this conversation because I know you are someone that stays on the bleeding edge of this space, and you're incredibly curious. Because you take that information, you're constantly testing new streaming platforms, you're constantly testing new products, you have this Go Kit that you just talked about that you're bringing to PodFest, and all of these things. How would you frame the future of this? You touched on AI, of course, that's like the hot thing to talk about, but if you're looking forward in your crystal ball, I'm not saying make a 2025 prediction or anything, but where do you see live streaming going? And for someone who is maybe new in the space or has been in the space around, like where should they be kind of dipping their toes in the future?
Gosh, I actually have a list of 10 predictions.
Oh, okay.
But I won't go into
ball.
that list of 10. I'm just going to say this. I know for one thing that's super important, and you will hear this if you ask anybody who's in the live streaming space, but live selling,
Mm-hmm.
It's not the QVC days. This is the new modern version of live selling, right? So live selling is going to be a big deal in 2025 and beyond. I feel like what we have to recognize is that whole know, like, and trust factor that Jim mentioned earlier in the show, when people know you, trust you, like you, they believe in what you say, they see you as credible. And so when you have that type of responsibility, I don't want to say power, but that influence,
Sure.
then when you recommend things, people will flock to that thing because you said that it works. Now, with that comes, again, a big, huge responsibility because you have to make sure that you're vetting the things that you're sharing with people. But I think that live streaming is an absolute opportunity. And you guys know this because Dealcasters is all about that, right? You're promoting and helping people to see things on Amazon that maybe they otherwise would not have known anything about. I have an Amazon live channel that I'm going to do more with. I haven't done much with it. I promise. But I think that's going to be a big deal. I also think that it's important for people to watch for ways that things like generative AI and other things that we haven't even heard about yet are going to influence and impact the way that content is shared, because there's such a crowding of content right now. People are throwing stuff at the wall. I think you have to be careful that you don't get into the volume race and really start thinking about, how do I create something of quality?
Boom.
That's it.
So,
yeah, James Hicks talks about rising above the noise. And, if you're creating content that everyone else is creating, it's just a different face, where the captions are going over your eyeballs and it looks just like everybody else's. Sure, you got the content out there, but it's not resonating. It's just, it just becomes just white noise. And nobody's paying attention, and the platforms, quite frankly, are squashing that stuff.
Yep.
It's not resonating with people. Nobody's clicking on it, and it's a waste of time, and you owe it to yourself to be more tactical and to be more excellent like Tanya Smith is, and to make great shows and to speak on great stages. I wish I was going to be there in Orlando to experience it. Maybe you can record it, and I can learn how to take all the content and sprinkle it all over the interwebs after we do that. We want to thank everybody who's come to the show. Talk Virtual. She wants to know your 10 productions, top 10 productions. I'd like to know as well. I hope it's this one.
This one is on that list. List.
You're just saying that because I could just eject you off of this thing. No, I'm kidding. Well, maybe that's a little thing you could use as a thing to your community, like here are my predictions or newsletter or something. And she would be here all 3 more hours. Thank you for that. That's just awesome here. And Chris, Pastor, be all in your Kool-Aid. Okay. See, I knew somebody would take it to church. And those who are trying to correct me silently. What did you say? Who you be? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Instead of who you are, who you be?
Who you be.
Correcting your grammar.
That sounded correct to me. I think that works for me. Tanya, thank you so much for coming and making our show better today.
Thank you for having me and for, just the fun and the welcome and the encouragement and support that I've always gotten from the two of you. I just have enjoyed being on your stage tonight.
We're huge fans. And for those of you who have enjoyed this show, make sure you're going to streamlikeaboss.tv. You're going to get the boss framework. You're going to connect to the podcast. There is nothing that this woman doesn't have that you can, tons of free content. But of course, there's a big offer in case you want to get closer to all of things. And of course, on Instagram, it's at Video Coach Tanya. On Facebook, it's Stream Like a Boss TV. And of course, we mentioned
you
the YouTube
can find
channel.
all the links if you go to streamlikeaboss.tv/links. That will send people wherever they want to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then of course, LinkedIn. We gotta do the LinkedIn because that's how you convert lurkers into leads right there, right?
That's right.
Awesome. Thank you for everybody joining us. Thank you again, Tanya. And as always, don't fear the gear.
Love gear, love talking all about it. This is going to be really fun.